The Sims 3 World Adventures was the first expansion pack for The Sims 3, and it allows your Sims to travel to 3 new worlds inspired by China, Egypt, and France. Each of these locations has a unique environment, beautifully detailed lots, townies and quests with intricate lore, and multiple expansive tombs to explore. On top of that, there are 3 new skills: martial arts, nectar making, and photography, so this pack adds a ton for your Sims to do, most of which I've never even attempted to complete. So today I'll be exploring everything the pack has to offer by continuing my lepacy challenge and playing an entire generation of The Sims 3 World Adventures with our heir, Caspian. But no worries if you haven't seen the first part, I'll get you caught up to speed, starting with what is a lepacy. It's a type of legacy challenge where you start with one founder and follow their family for 12 generations, each one adding in a new expansion pack to focus on. A new generation starts once their heir and their spouse complete their lifetime wishes, and the next heir is at least a teen. All traits and lifetime wishes must be randomized, and while cheats aren't allowed, any in-game rewards and items are totally fair game. With that in mind, the goals for this generation are pretty simple. Caspian and his future spouse both need to complete their lifetime wishes, ideally before their heir becomes a teen, so we have as much time as possible with the next pack, ambitions. I also want to prepare the heir for the next generation, and most importantly, I do not want to burn out. I want to continue to be excited to play throughout the entire generation and all of the ones afterwards. But first, hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Ali, and if you enjoy this video and you want to see more like it, then please consider subscribing. With that, let me introduce you to our main sim, Caspian. Caspian grew up in Sunset Valley with his 2 moms and little sister, Adriana. One of his moms, Valencia, is a master fisherwoman and gardener, while his other mom, Tamara, is the literal president of Sim Nation, so needless to say, he's had an interesting childhood filled with both nature and diplomacy. Because of that, he's always been interested in exploring other cultures and has been training from a young age in the hopes of one day learning martial arts. Now that it's his generation, it's time to randomize his lifetime wish. Our lifetime wish will be Great Explorer. To complete the Great Explorer lifetime wish, Caspian will need to fully explore 6 tombs in each location. With all that out of the way, it's time to jump into Caspian's life, starting with the day after he became a teen. Caspian woke up early to get a quick workout in before heading off to military school, which may sound insane, but trust me, he loves it. While he was at school, I switched over to his mom, Valencia. Valencia, our lepacy founder, had already completed her lifetime wish to have an aquarium with 13 perfect fish, but as a stretch goal, I wanted her to catch a perfect version of every base game fish. She was still missing a few, so I sent her out fishing, where she immediately got a wish to go to China. Her birthday was just a few days away, so I decided we'd celebrate with a trip there, which was perfect because not only could Caspian start exploring tombs, but he could also finally begin learning martial arts, since you can only buy the training equipment there. Caspian got out of school, and because he is the most locked in sim of all time, immediately started his homework. But since he already smelled like shit, I sent him to work out instead, where he quickly reached level 2 of the athletic skill. The next day followed a similar routine. Valencia caught 4 of the remaining fish she needed, and Caspian spent the evening training. Once he reached level 4, he headed off to bed for a good night's rest before the trip tomorrow. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Oh my god. Caspian, get up. Call police. I just feel like neither of your moms are equipped to handle this. I don't think I'm equipped to handle this. Get her ass, Caspian. Fuck, you can't do anything. Yes, police, I see you. Get her, Mindy. Fuck her up. Fuck her up, Mindy. Oh god. Uh-oh. That doesn't look promising. Honestly, Caspian, just go back to bed if you can't help with this. God damn it. Are you serious? Oh my god. This is just like real life. Wait, Caspian wants to become a master thief because of that? Stop, that's actually so funny. You basically will, because you're gonna be like a tomb raider, so like, don't worry. You'll get to do some stealing. Because of that, Valencia's first birthday present was a burglar alarm, but don't worry, the day got much better after that. The whole family celebrated as she aged up into an elder, and then I brought her into Cass. I gave her a little outdoorsy old lady makeover, and I think she turned out pretty cute. After that, it was time to cut the cake, but Caspian, in true Caspian fashion, had other plans. Oh my god. Of course Caspian's having a goddamn salad. Everyone else in his family is having cake. No, he's locked in. Once they were done eating, Caspian excitedly booked a 3-day trip for the whole family to Shang Simla, China, and just like that, we were off on our first world adventure. Shang Simla is an absolutely gorgeous world, and Caspian and I both couldn't wait to start exploring. The family would be staying at a nice hostel for the duration of the trip, but before even going inside, Caspian was already at the message board looking for adventures. He decided to accept the first request he saw, which was to explore the halls of the Lost Army and find an ancient relic. Caspian was super excited to enter a tomb so soon after arriving, and conveniently, it was right next door. Immediately after entering, we were faced with our first puzzle. Alright, I wonder where we have to step. Yeah, before we go any further, let me talk about the tombs. Each location has a variety of uniquely themed tombs, where your Sims solve puzzles, find secret doors and switches, evade traps, and collect any loot they can find while ignoring all of the ethical implications of doing so. Some can be explored at any time, while others, like this one, require a specific quest keystone to enter. This was very clearly designed to be a tutorial tomb, and Caspian easily progressed by moving some statues and clearing rubble. Bro, that's bigger than you. Where did you pull that out of? He dove into a dive well, swam through a hidden tunnel, and found a star-shaped keystone, allowing him to enter the final room and officially complete his first tomb. This tomb was short and sweet, but most take a lot longer, some even requiring multiple days to finish. But hey, Caspian has to start somewhere, right? He returned the relic and got $500, which was a pretty good reward for that easy of a tomb. He still had some energy, so he headed to the market. Since Caspian will literally be spending his life robbing graves of cultural artifacts, I figured the least he could do is learn the traditions of said cultures. So he bought all of the China-exclusive recipes to learn when he had enough cooking skill. He also stocked up on adventuring gear like morsels, showers in cans, and a tent, as well as some martial arts training equipment to take back home. But Caspian had been dreaming about learning martial arts his entire life and was not patient enough to wait until he got home, so he headed to the academy. Since it was 10 p.m., there was no one there, which was a little creepy, but probably for the best considering, you're doing so good, Caspian, you got it. You've been training your whole life for this. Yeah. He trained for a bit, but eventually got tired and headed back to base camp. I checked in on the other Sims, and let's just say that Tamara and Valencia had been thoroughly enjoying each other's company, and would continue to do so many, many times throughout the duration of the trip. When Caspian woke up, he accepted another quest, this time to explore the Dragon's Maw Cave, but he decided to stop by the Martial Arts Academy first. I originally sent him there to find someone to train him, but instead he got distracted learning the Chinese cultural songs. I didn't know this at the time, but Caspian would sing these songs constantly, all the time, for the rest of his life. Thankfully though, Caspian has a pretty decent voice, so I didn't mind hearing him. He trained until he reached level 1, earning his white belt, and then set off to the Dragon's Maw. Despite the sick-ass exterior, this tomb was pretty similar to the first one we did, just a bit longer. Caspian got tired halfway through, so he set up his tent and spent his first of many nights in a tomb. I woke him up early because it was the last day of the trip, and I wanted him to have as much time as possible to explore. He finished looting the tomb and reported in to a woman named Hui Young. With this, Caspian earned enough points to reach Visa level 1, which would allow him to go on longer trips to China in the future. He spent several hours running around the world collecting minerals for Hui Young, and oh my god, this map is beautiful. I think all three of the worlds are pretty well designed, but something about the landscape of China is just particularly stunning to me. Caspian was Hui Young's dutiful errand boy all day, but her final request was for a common relic, and there was no way he'd be able to find one in time. He was utterly exhausted after 3 long days of adventuring, so he spent his last few hours in China napping in his tent. The good family returned to Sunset Valley at the exact same time they left. When you go on vacations, your Sims don't age and your main world is frozen in time. By the end of this challenge, Caspian will get to live several extra weeks without aging at all, giving him a lot more time to complete his lifetime wish and build skills, especially compared to Valencia, who started out as a young adult. Caspian swapped out his treadmill for his new martial arts equipment, since he'll build both athletic and martial arts skills at the same time while training. He quickly reached martial arts level 3, earning his orange belt, but Caspian was still clearly on tomb exploration autopilot. Don't use a shower in a can. That is a waste of a shower in a can. No, you idiot! Oh my god, Caspian. You suck. Just know that one time you're gonna be in the caves, stinky as shit, and that's not gonna be my problem, okay? It's gonna be yours. Just a few seconds later, I made an even worse discovery. What do you mean scoop out dead fish? Okay, you know, that's not my fault if they died. I don't know what to do about that. Oh my god, there's dead fish here too? How? What? I have no clue how those little shits died because I made sure to feed them multiple times a day. So honestly, that's a skill issue on their part. A skill issue, if you will. Anyways, to preserve my sanity, I decided that Valencia just had to catch a perfect version of each fish to complete her stretch goal, not keep them all alive at the same time. Everyone headed to bed, and I moved Caspian's training dummy into his room, which he seemed to appreciate as he rolled out of bed early the next morning and immediately started training. That day was his younger sister Adriana's birthday, so when she woke up, the whole family gathered downstairs to celebrate. She aged up with the over-emotional trait, which, yeah, that checks out. I took her into Cas for a quick makeover, trying to keep the same whimsigoth vibe she had as a child. Adriana soon got the want to work out, which made sense. I think after hearing about all of Caspian's adventures in China, she was inspired to train so she could join him next time. Caspian also spent most of the day training, eventually reaching level 4, which was a pretty big milestone as he could now compete in the martial arts tournament in China. He also earned his green belt, but it came at the cost of his eyesight. Later that evening, I had Caspian and Adriana bond a bit since, despite being close in age, they barely knew each other. While they did that, Valencia went fishing and caught a perfect shark and lobster, leaving just one fish left, the robot fish. This ended up being a really nice full circle moment since she had to go back to the science facility where she first tried to fish. Back then, she wasn't able to catch a single fish, but now she was able to catch a perfect robot fish on her very first try, officially completing her stretch goal. Caspian and Adriana grabbed dinner at the diner, and by the time they were done eating, they were friends. The next day after school, Caspian booked a 3-day trip to France for his family. While Valencia had just become an elder, Tamara was nearing the end of her life, and Caspian wanted to make sure she fulfilled her wish to go. It wasn't the best timing as his moms were literally in the middle of woohooing, but before long they arrived in Champs-Élysées, France. France is probably my least favorite of the 3 just because it feels a bit generic, but it's still very pretty and has plenty to explore. Caspian immediately checked the board and picked up a quest to investigate the Celtic ruins and recover a lost item. He invited Adriana to join him, and she excavated some dig sites while Caspian went into the depths of the ruins. Meanwhile, Valencia and Tamara spent the day at the Nectary, wine-drunk and completely oblivious to their teenage children raiding tombs. But the tomb raiding in question was going pretty well. Caspian solved puzzles while Adriana followed behind him, gathering up the relics. This tomb was much more grim than the ones in China, and there was even an entire decomposing skeleton, which would have freaked me the hell out, but the siblings didn't seem to care at all. Having 2 Sims exploring made the process much faster, and the siblings soon reached the bottom of the ruins. There was a hedge maze filled with treasure and a camp area complete with a rotting corpse of the adventurer it once belonged to. They eventually found the final room and the lost item, which ended up just being a baseball. After reporting back, Caspian had officially completed his first French tomb and adventure. While he was in the market, he bought all of the French recipe books before heading off to bed. The next morning, he accepted a quest to ask a girl out for someone. Caspian had to befriend her first, but after some small talk and learning more songs he would never stop singing, the mission was complete. And I guess whatever Caspian said worked wonders, as they started making out before he had even left. Caspian then accepted another request to investigate a mystery room in some guy's house. As it turned out, the mystery room was actually an entire secret garden under his house, leading to a tomb in his shed. How this guy hadn't noticed that while he was living here is beyond me, but hey, that was another tomb completed for Caspian. He still had some energy left, so he picked up yet another quest, this time to learn more about the history of nectar. Caspian got a keystone to access the Chateau de Landgrave's library, where some secret nectar papers were apparently hidden. Caspian set up his tent there for the night so he could start exploring first thing in the morning. Even with Adriana's help, progress was slow due to the insane amount of traps, but they eventually made it to the library and found the papers. The vacation would be over in just a few hours, but Caspian decided to try to complete one more adventure. He was asked to go back to the secret garden to try to appease the ghost there. Caspian talked with him, but he requested some pomegranates, which only grow in Egypt, so he obviously couldn't finish the quest this trip. Caspian spent the rest of his time in France exploring the massive museum, but he got a bit distracted by the martial arts section. He continued training when he got home and reached level 5 of both the athletic and martial arts skills. Adriana, inspired by watching her brother, began learning the basics with the training dummy and ended up earning her yellow belt. Afterwards, Caspian broke the shower, and since I figured handiness might help with disarming traps, I had him repair it. The next morning, while the kids headed off to school, Tamara accepted an opportunity to complete a small painting for someone. I've barely talked about Tamara in this video because despite being the president of Sim Nation, at this point in her life, she pretty much only painted and woohooed. However, she was nearing the end of her life, and I wanted something to remember her by, so after she dropped off her commission piece, she started painting another one. Like, literally another one. It's the exact same painting, but you know what? Sure, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. A few hours later, it was done, framed on the wall, and very creatively named Butterflies. She went to woohoo with Valencia to celebrate, and accidentally ended up reaching level 10 charisma, maxing out the skill she spent most of her adult life practicing. With that, I was officially at peace with her inevitable passing, though for her kids and wife's sake, I hope she still had a bit more time left. Later, Caspian and Adriana sparred for the first time, and unsurprisingly, he won easily, reaching level 6 and earning his blue belt. The next day was more of the same. Caspian and Adriana went to school and trained, while Valencia and Tamara stayed busy. But unfortunately, during one of these woohoos, tragedy struck.
Oh, what? Oh god, oh no! No! Wait, that was so- oh no! They were just about to woohoo! No! Oh, that's so sad. Rest in peace, Tamara. I love you. At least you died literally doing what you love.
Her family immediately began grieving, but Tamara accepted her time and calmly shook Grimm's hand. Annoyingly, despite having a ton of lifetime reward points, she only got the standard tombstone. I had planned to send them to Egypt the next day, but instead I gave them some time to grieve, which they each did in their own way. Valencia was heartbroken and fainted over and over again. Caspian threw himself into his training, and Adriana invited Tobias, a cute boy from school, over as a distraction. But when he showed up, this happened.
Oh my god, he's literally- shut up. Shut up. Is he serenading her? Oh my god, okay.
And clearly some of Valencia's girl failureness had rubbed off on her, as she thought this was appropriate gossip.
Tamara Good just died, isn't it a shame? Girl, that's your mother, what do you mean? Oh my god, crazy work.
Thankfully, Tobias didn't seem bothered by this, and they were pretty compatible, but unfortunately he had just aged up into a young adult, so they couldn't date. Adriana just headed to bed, hoping her love life would be better in the future. The next few days blurred together as the family struggled to cope with Tamara's loss, with the only bright spot being Adriana earning her green belt. But like the saying goes, time heals all wounds, and the same is true with moodlets, so by Sunday morning, the family was ready to head off to Egypt. This is definitely the most distinctive world, and I love all the pyramids and monuments around the map. Unfortunately, it has by far the worst base camp, just consisting of some tents and other basic necessities, which feels a bit strange considering how much nicer the hostels in China and France are. But of course, Caspian wouldn't be spending much time there anyways. He had already accepted his first quest, which was to enter the Tomb of Discovery and find some missing papers. Caspian went to the market to pick up some supplies and ran into a girl his age named Dunya. I hadn't seen a single teen in either of the other locations, so I immediately sent him to talk to her. They got along well and even flirted for a bit, but Caspian didn't want to get too distracted and said goodbye to her for now. He grabbed the recipe books, some supplies, and the pomegranates he needed for the France quest, and then headed to the tomb. Adriana and Valencia seemed happy reading together, so Caspian descended alone. He completed the tomb in just a few hours and returned the papers to a woman named Rania, who immediately sent him on another errand. She wanted Caspian to investigate Morku Corp, a sketchy company doing business in the area. He had to gather intel on what people thought, which gave him a good excuse to chat with Dunya again. Since everyone else was asleep and he was pretty tired himself, Caspian headed back to camp. The next morning, Caspian talked to a few more people about Morku Corp, and it was pretty clear that no one trusted them. He reported that back to Rania, who asked him to enter the Tomb of the Burning Sands and collect some flame fruit. He met up with Adriana, and the siblings set off to explore their first pyramid. The tombs in Egypt, specifically the pyramids, are some of my absolute favorites. They're all just so fun and intricately designed. This was definitely the biggest tomb Caspian had explored so far, so he and I were both very grateful to have Adriana's help. After several hours of exploring, they reached a massive boulder blocking a chest, which Caspian wouldn't be able to destroy until he found a magical item from China. They kept moving forward and eventually came across a room full of treasure. And a sarcophagus.
Oh god, oh god, oh fuck, oh god. He's right behind me, isn't he? What do you mean no interaction available? What do you mean? Caspian, run! Caspian, no! Oh god! Oh no. Shit. Well, fuck.
Yeah, that obviously didn't go too well, but thankfully after Caspian passed out, the mummy just went back to its sarcophagus and left them alone. When Caspian woke up and realized what happened, he swore that when he returned to break the boulder, he'd come back strong enough to get revenge. The siblings explored a bit more until they eventually found a room full of flame fruit bushes, which Adriana harvested before heading back to base camp. Caspian continued forward, and thankfully it didn't take much longer to reach the final room. He delivered the flame fruits to Rania, who requested he ask a man about an ancient book. Coincidentally, the man was Dunya's father, but he was not willing to give away his information easily. The trip ended before he could finish, and when he got home he found out that Dunya had a boyfriend, but that was fine. Maybe his relationship with Dunya wouldn't turn romantic, but he was still really happy to have her as a friend. The siblings, invigorated by their encounter with the mummy, began to pour themselves into their martial arts training, reaching level 7 and 5 respectively on their first day back. The next day after school, Adriana started talking to a boy named Darren. She thought he was really cute and they got along well, so when she got home, she invited him over. They did their homework together and soon started flirting. I even brought him into Cass and gave him a makeover, so things were getting pretty serious. Adriana invited him to stay the night, even though there was nowhere for him to sleep. Just a few minutes later, they had their first kiss and were officially dating, which may seem fast, but hey, they're young teens in their first relationship, so I feel like it checks out. Plus, if Adriana didn't claim him now, story progression would have him in love with someone else in no time. The next day after school, Caspian and Adriana did some sibling bonding, because despite everything, they still barely knew each other. But after everyone went to bed, I heard a familiar jingle.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Again? Bruh. Okay, good. The police showed up very fast this time. Alright, Mindy, I need you to lock the fuck in, please.
Thankfully, this time Mindy won, and nothing was stolen, so everyone just went back to sleep. And you know, if I had a nickel for every time we got robbed the night before a birthday, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice, right? And by that I mean today was Caspian's birthday. After coming back from his last day of military school, he had a small party with his family, and with that, it was time to randomize his last trait.
Alright, Caspian. What's your last trait? Family oriented. Oh, that's cute. Okay. You look so old. Caspian, you're like 20, not 50. But go off, King.
Since we had already randomized his lifetime wish, I selected Great Explorer and then took him into Cass. And not to be straight on main, but
he's handsome. He is cute.
Caspian's always had an outdoorsy explorer vibe, so I just wanted to give him a more grown-up version of that. I'm not the best with male fashion, but let's be real, Caspian wouldn't be either, so I think he turned out pretty good. After finishing his cake, he set off for his first trip as a young adult, a 5-day solo vacation to China. While there, he wanted to find himself. And maybe also some love or relics along the way, that would be pretty cool too. The first thing Caspian did after arriving was bring a common relic to Hui Young, which completed the quest he started last time. He accepted another quest where he ran a bunch of random errands to help some scientists with their research. Caspian needed a break from questing after that, so he headed to the academy to invite over his first ranked sparring opponent, a woman named Biu. They were immediately attracted to each other, and after Caspian defeated her in the match, they continued to talk. He found her blindingly stunning, but she was 9 days older than him and married, so they just became friends for now. In the morning, he accepted a request to help a man destroy a boulder, which sounded like it would lead us to the magic item he learned about in Egypt. Caspian wanted to do another ranked match first, and coincidentally, his opponent was the man he needed to talk to for the quest. But unfortunately, there was no option to do a ranked match, and doing a normal spar didn't seem to count, so I gave up on it for now. Caspian ran a few more errands and was sent to talk to Hui Young, but she suddenly hated him now that he was family-oriented since she disliked children. Caspian spent hours trying to get her to talk, but she kept rejecting his interactions. She eventually told him that he would need to enter the Temple of Heaven to search for Pongu's axe, which would allow him to break any boulder. Because I'm a dumbass, I took that literally, and I sent him all the way to the top of the temple when he just needed to enter the shed in the corner, so he wasted several hours just climbing stairs. This foreshadowed his experience in the tomb, which ended up being one of my least favorites. It's basically just a dull, winding rock maze where your sim goes up and down staircases to reach different areas. After several hours of exploring, Caspian got tired, but since there was nowhere to put down his tent, he had to backtrack the entire course of the map. This took forever, and by the time he woke up, he only had 12 hours left of his trip. This was supposed to be his big self-discovery trip, and he had pretty much nothing to show for it, so Caspian was determined to find the axe before he had to go home. But as it turns out, we had already found it.
Oh wait, it's right there. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I literally found it and then didn't realize it.
In my defense, it was dark as hell in this tomb, so it blended in with the background. Caspian retraced his steps and was finally able to claim the Axe of Pongu, which is easily the coolest item in the entire game. Just look at this shit! Instead of delivering the axe to complete the quest, Caspian wanted to try to finish the tomb before he had to go home. He went as fast as he could and even broke his first boulder, but unfortunately he couldn't quite finish in time. It wasn't quite the trip he had envisioned, but at least he had found the legendary axe. Valencia was clearly hoping he had found something different, as she got the wish to see Caspian married, which, while sweet, based on how that went, I doubted she'd live long enough to see. Now that he was back home, Caspian registered as a self-employed collector, and after selling some gems, instantly earned several promotions. While he practiced martial arts, I bought him the Meditative Trance Sleep perk and the Learned Relic Hunter perk to make his future adventures easier and more profitable. But after that, I got a weird notification.
Tamara Good won't live forever. It's a good time. Tamara Good's dead.
I double-checked, and yeah, she was dead. But I also discovered that her home country had apparently been Egypt. I'm not sure where that came from, but I really liked the idea, so let's just pretend that that's been canon this whole time. Caspian reached level 8 of the martial arts skill, earning his brown belt, and then headed off to bed. I decided that Caspian deserved a do-over on his self-discovery trip, but in the meantime, he mostly just worked out while I got weird notifications.
Tamara Good's passed on. Thanks, game. I hadn't noticed.
And that wasn't the only weird thing going on in my game.
Oh, look, his portrait is glitched, like how he was a teenager. Is this a metaphor for how he still feels like he's stuck as a child and he hasn't really fully become an adult yet? Or is it just a Sims 3 glitch? Who's to say?
Caspian was ready to travel again, but he first decided to take his family out to a nice formal dinner so they could reconnect a bit. When he got home, Caspian immediately booked himself another solo trip to China. He had unlocked the ability to stay for 8 days, which I hoped would be more than enough time for him to accomplish everything he wanted to. Right when he got there, he hit the ground running and delivered the axe to complete the quest. Caspian's next task was to enter the Hot Springs Temple to find and return a lost relic. He destroyed the boulder blocking the entrance, then dove into a dive well, leading to a beautifully designed tomb. This one ended up being one of my favorites. It's just so peaceful and pretty. And now that he had the Axe of Pongu, he could destroy rubble in a single swing, which greatly sped up exploration. He made his way through the tomb and managed to find both the missing relic and final room in no time. After completing the quest, he tried again to do a ranked match for the tournament, but he still wasn't able to. Unfortunately, the martial arts tournament system is incredibly broken and glitchy, and sometimes you just can't fight the person you're assigned to. Thankfully, I was able to use Enros Master Controller to force a new opponent. While waiting for them to arrive, he picked up another quest where he had to work with Wei Young to locate the famous Dongguo treasure trove. His sparring opponent finally arrived and he won his second ranked match. His next non-glitched opponent was someone he had already faced, so Caspian easily won again, which brought his sparring rank up to level 1 out of 5. He called for his next competitor, which ended up being Biu. Caspian and I were both super excited to see her again, but that faded when she arrived and we saw that she had had a child. I assumed Caspian probably wouldn't want to break up her marriage or become a stepdad overnight when he was so young, so I figured they'd just stay friends. He beat her in the sparring match, they chatted for a while, and then...
Oh my god, he wants to kiss Biu for the first time. Alright, well, so much for him not wanting to break up a family.
Clearly, I was completely wrong about Caspian's morals. But Biu, being a much more mature adult, shot down every single one of his advances, which was probably for the best. The next morning, Caspian set out to find the key to Dongguo's treasure, which was hidden somewhere in the market. After some searching, I found a switch above ground behind one of the buildings, which allowed him access into the dungeon-like tomb underneath the market. He spent the day exploring and eventually found the final room, which contained the keystone to Dongguo's treasure. On his way out of the tomb, he ran into Biu and her husband.
Hi guys, what are you doing here? Are you guys getting divorced? Can I watch? Oh my god, she said hi to me.
Okay, maybe I wasn't quite ready to let go of Biu as a potential fling, and based on Caspian's wants, he wasn't either. After showing Wei Young the keystone, Caspian spent all night schmoozing someone until he finally got permission to actually go inside the treasure trove. This is another one of my favorite tombs. It's really fun to explore, and as you can imagine from it literally being called a treasure trove, there are a ton of valuable items, like ancient nectar and rare relics. It took Caspian a couple of days to finish exploring each section, but eventually he found the main treasure room, completing his 4th Chinese tomb. He returned Wei Young's relic, and since he still had a good amount of energy, he went back to the Temple of Heaven to officially complete the tomb where he found the axe. But right as he got there, he got a shocking call.
Oh my god. yes, we want to go on a date. Yeah, fuck exploring. We're gonna go explore something else, if you know what I mean.
But I guess she chickened out or something, because the game didn't register it as a date, and she still wouldn't accept any of his advances. At this point, they were good friends, and considering the circumstances, Caspian was more than fine with that. With that resolved, he headed back once again to the Temple of Heaven. He retraced his steps, collecting all the loot that had respawned, and though it took a while, he finally reached somewhere new. He smashed a few boulders and quickly reached the last room, finally completing the tomb. He headed back to base camp and picked up a new adventure, this one focused on martial arts. After beating a woman in a sparring match, Caspian then had to report in to who else? Hui Young. Even though they started off on the wrong foot, since Hui Young was involved with literally every quest for some reason, she and Caspian had become pretty good friends. She had him meditate in the Scholar's Garden for a few hours before sending him to the Resolute Fist Retreat to find some ancient writings. Caspian breezed through the simple traps and puzzles, finishing the tomb in just a few hours. He had now finished 6 tombs in China, meaning he'd completed the requirement for his lifetime wish, but I doubted that this would actually be the last tomb he explored here. He gave the writings to Hui Young and then went to sleep while I sold off $10,000 worth of relics. When he woke up, Caspian only had a few hours of his trip left, so he spent them doing ranked sparring matches at the dojo. He quickly reached tournament level 2 and won a few more matches after that, putting him in a solid spot for when he returned. Though he probably wouldn't be back for a while. I was definitely starting to get a bit burnt out after nearly 2 weeks in China, but at least Caspian's second solo trip went much better than the first. He also had a lot of lifetime reward points, so I bought him Prepared Traveler, which let him stay longer in each destination. Caspian's first day back home was pretty chill. He mostly just spent time with his family and, of course, practiced martial arts. He reached level 9 of the skill, earning his black belt, and he gained the ability to break space rocks with his bare hands, which was pretty cool. I then decided to have Valencia do something a bit shocking. I had her scoop Neil, her beloved perfect deathfish, out of his bowl and sent him to be mounted. It low-key broke my heart to just kill him like that, but Valencia could die at any moment now, and Neil is the perfect memento for her to leave behind. It felt wrong not having a deathfish in the bowl though, so Valencia put another perfect one in, which was given the name Wilbur. The next day was Adriana's birthday, but I wasn't in the mood to celebrate her after I realized she had eaten several of the pomegranates Caspian brought back from Egypt. Valencia planted the last 2, but this put a bit of a wrench in my plans. Originally, I had wanted the siblings to go to France right after Adriana aged up, but now we'd have to wait for the trees to grow in so Caspian could complete his quest, which was super annoying. But Adriana still had a very nice party with Darren and the rest of her family. She aged up with a schmoozer trait, and since she's also a daredevil, I chose reaching the top of the business career as her lifetime wish. For her young adult makeover, I kept the essence of her style, but made it a bit more office appropriate. I'm not sure if I succeeded with that, but she looks cute, and that's what really matters. And as a birthday present, Caspian trained her in martial arts. When they were done, Caspian checked the mail to find Neil ready to display, so I hung him above the rest of the fish tanks. Caspian spent the rest of his evening catching up with Valencia, and then headed outside to sleep in his tent, which I planned to have him use until he moved out because of how fast it restored his energy. Over the next few days, Valencia fished, Adriana worked on her charisma, Caspian caught up with his foreign friends, and both siblings trained in martial arts. One day while sparring with Adriana, Caspian reached level 10, which is something he had dreamed of since he was a little kid. Adriana wasn't too far behind him, and she reached level 8 just a few hours later. Darren had aged up into a young adult, so after a much-needed makeover, he and Adriana went out on the town for a date before heading home to Woohoo. The next morning, the pomegranate trees finally grew in, and the day after that, Caspian and his family set off for an 8-day trip to France. To be honest, I expected Valencia to be long dead by now, and for this to be a siblings-only trip, but hey, since she's still around, she may as well come, right? Right when they landed, Adriana and Valencia headed to the nectary, while Caspian delivered the pomegranates to the gravesite in the secret garden. He then returned the ghost's lover's remains to their rightful place in the tomb, and finally, the quest was complete. I also noticed that he was attracted to Leia, the woman who gave him the quest, but once again, she was much older than him and had a child, so it didn't feel like a great fit. I checked back in on the women, and... oh, sir? Sir, what the fuck? So, yeah, they decided to head to the museum instead. Caspian headed back to base camp and picked up a quest to convince people to visit the relic store. He headed to the main park, and while there, he met a woman named Berthe. Because she wasn't a MILF, he wasn't immediately attracted to her, but he did want to learn her sign and found her gorgeous. Their signs ended up being compatible, she was only 2 days younger than him, and she was single. She was such a good match for him that I couldn't help but bring her into Cas for a closer look and a quick makeover. And oh my god, she was so pretty. Her original style was very practical and comfortable, kind of like Caspian, but a bit more put together, so that's what I tried to go for in her makeover. They chatted for a bit longer, and soon they were full-on flirting, so Caspian asked her out on a date. Berthe said yes, so they headed to a nearby cafe, but the second they sat down, she got tired and said she was leaving. Because she didn't have a good time on our 30-second long date, which, okay Berthe, whose fault is that, their relationship went down so far they were no longer friends. But Caspian stopped her before she left and smoothed things over, and soon they were flirting again like nothing happened. They hugged goodbye for the night, Caspian convinced one last person to visit the store, and then he went to bed. But while he was sleeping, Caspian got some bad news. Story progression had gotten to Berthe, and she was now dating a man named Pascal. I just decided to ignore that for now, and instead sent Caspian to report in to complete his quest, and then back to base camp to get another adventure. His new quest required him to run back and forth from the market to the museum over and over again, which was incredibly annoying. He eventually got access to the tomb underneath the museum, which he cleared easily, but in order to complete the quest, he would still have to go bring some remains to the graveyard. That night, while Caspian was sleeping, we found out that Berthe and Pascal had gotten engaged. Caspian was still really interested in her though, so he got up early, finished his quest, and then invited her to join him at the Nectary. They arrived around the same time, and the second he saw her, Caspian wanted to kiss her. They flirted for a bit, and soon their hangout turned into a date. But Caspian isn't a homewrecker, even though he really wanted to be that one time. So he asked her to break up with Pascal first, and she agreed. Caspian then suggested they go somewhere more romantic, specifically the nearby Rose campground, and when they got there, he serenaded her with a traditional French song. They cooked dinner over the fire together, and even though their roasting choices were pretty questionable, it was still adorable. Caspian also kept getting wants about her, first to cook her favorite meal, and then to kiss her for the first time, which yes meant that he had 2 separate wishes to kiss her. It reminded me of Valencia's pining over Tamara, which was super cute to see. Berthe got tired again and ended the date, but instead of leaving, she instead told Caspian a flirtatious joke. He couldn't hold back any longer and confessed his attraction to her, which of course she reciprocated, and they sealed their newly declared love with a kiss. They made out for a bit before enjoying a nice little tent woohoo. After that, Berthe actually did go home, so Caspian took a quick nap before heading back to base camp. He went to get a new quest, but was shocked by what he saw. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Pascal. Oh my god. That's crazy work. I'm sorry, bro. No, I'm not gonna ask out my future girlfriend for you, her ex-fiance, who she left, for me. No. Caspian clearly needed to make things official with Berthe soon, so Pascal would take the hint and move on. And since none of the other adventures looked interesting, he invited Berthe over to do just that. They hung out for a bit, and when he asked if she wanted to be official, she agreed, and immediately afterwards, he got the wish to move in with her. The new couple headed upstairs to woohoo, and once they were done, Caspian took a nap while Berthe introduced herself to Valencia. When Caspian woke up, he joined the conversation, and Valencia looked so happy to see them together. And you know, with how things are going, maybe she would live long enough to see Caspian get married. Caspian said goodbye to Berthe and then grabbed Adriana to go exploring. Since I didn't have a quest to follow, I just sent them back to the Chateau de Landgrab because I knew that there was a lot more to that tomb that I hadn't seen. Unfortunately, their exploration didn't result in anything but suffering, so a few hours later, they went back to base camp empty-handed. Over the next day or so, Caspian did some odd job quests, but none of them led to a new tomb. Since the museum had one, Caspian checked the basement of the Nectary, and sure enough, there was a tomb. He was too tired to explore it, so he camped out there for the night, but in the morning, he realized he would need a specific keystone to actually enter it. Since there was nothing else he could do, he went back to base camp and accepted another random fetch quest in the hopes that it would lead to something, but of course, it didn't. At this point, I was getting kind of frustrated because without a quest that would give me a keystone, I was blocked from the majority of tombs, leaving Caspian with little to do. Apparently, the game will only give you a few quests per trip, and once you've done them, you won't get any more, which is very annoying. I ended up using Master Controller to just give him a quest, and Caspian set off to explore the shack behind the Chateau de Landgrab. And by explore, I mean he literally just inserted the keystone and was done, but it still counted as his 4th French tomb explored. Thankfully, the quest wasn't done yet. Caspian ran a few more random errands and was eventually asked to deliver an amethyst. But when I looked at the map, I noticed that there were 2 cut ones next to each other in the middle of nowhere, which was super weird. Obviously, Caspian headed over to investigate, and when he did, he discovered several boulders that he could smash with his axe. Upon doing so, he discovered a hidden staircase leading to a really cool underground botanical tomb. The puzzles in this tomb were also much more complex, and the very first one required 2 sims to complete, so Caspian called Adriana and she headed over to help. While she was on her way, Caspian went ahead and dropped off an amethyst, which earned him enough visa points to reach level 3. He also got a key to investigate a different part of the Chateau de Landgrab, but I was much more interested in whatever this secret tomb held. Once the siblings met up, they began to work through the tomb together. This is probably one of my top 3 tombs in the entire game. I really like the vibes of this one, and it also has some of the hardest puzzles. Unfortunately, it took them a while to make progress at first because one of them would get tired and have to sleep, but then the other sim couldn't continue without them. Eventually, I gave up on having them try to explore alone and just made them both sleep. That was definitely the right move, as when they woke up, they were able to reach the bottom of the tomb relatively quickly. There was a giant swirling green pool, so Caspian dove in and emerged in a massive underground garden. With this, he had completed his 5th French tomb, but more importantly, he now had access to Tuatha's garden, which was filled with rare grape varieties, life and flame fruits, and even a death flower. The siblings spent several hours harvesting everything they could. Adriana eventually left to go to bed, but Caspian kept going and solved the final few puzzles, which led up to a secret island covered in ruins and excavation sites. Caspian joined Adriana back in base camp, and I checked in on Valencia, who had been fishing pretty much this entire time. When Caspian recovered, he invited Berthe out to the museum and gave her a tour of the tomb beneath it. After that, I wanted him to take her to Tuatha's garden, but apparently the only way there is through the portal at the bottom of the tomb, and that would take way too long, so instead they spent the rest of Caspian's time in France together at the Rose campsite. Once the family got home, Adriana officially retired from adventuring and decided to join the business career to start working towards her lifetime wish. They spent the rest of their day recovering from their trip, and we also got another notification that Tamara was about to die. I wondered if it was a glitch and the notification was supposed to be for Valencia, but no, I think The Sims 3 is just barely being held together by duct tape and dreams. Anyway, Caspian spent most of the next day working out, and when he called Berthe in the evening, he decided he wanted to propose to her. He also spent some time with Valencia, first in a cute, normal way, and then like this.
Oh, okay, Caspian. I feel like that's a little weird. Sure.
He eventually headed back outside to go to bed. Based on his recent wishes, I got the impression that he was ready to start his life with Berthe, but if he did that, he'd have to move out, which neither he nor I wanted to do with Valencia so close to death. His pondering was interrupted by...
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Why do I keep getting robbed? Okay, Caspian, it's your time. Lock in. Go get this guy.
Unfortunately, he didn't have the option to try and stop the burglar himself, and instead had to just let the police handle it. But this third burglary ended up being the final push Caspian needed. The next day, he came up with a plan. He would move out and take Valencia with him, leaving the house to Adriana and Darren. This way, both he and Adriana could get their lives started, and I wouldn't have to worry about missing Valencia's death. After packing up everything I needed, Adriana invited Darren over, but we immediately got some strange news.
No, wait, what? Darren's brother was just born, and he was also named Darren. Why would they do that?
Anyway, Darren moved into the household, and I took a quick peek at his relationships.
Oh my god, that's crazy work.
Since Adriana wouldn't be in the main household anymore, she'd have to figure out that mess on her own. Caspian gave her one last hug, and then he and Valencia moved out to their new house, a lovely little red one I downloaded from the exchange. It had a basement and a place for a garden, making it perfect for nectar making, which is what I planned to have Berthe focus on. Now that he had his own house, Caspian could finally show off all his relics, so he set up his displays before heading to bed. But just a few hours later, they already had an update from Adriana.
Oh my god, they already broke up? Stop! Okay, I guess she found out he was cheating on her. Fair enough. Can't believe I gave him a makeover for nothing.
To be honest, I really expected them to get married or at least date longer, but shaking things up is what story progression does best. And Adriana deserves someone who wouldn't cheat on her. The next morning, Valencia planted an insane amount of things in the garden, but since you guys reminded me they existed, I got her sprinklers this time. When Caspian woke up, he went out to buy some groceries as well as some bubble bath and candles to make the house nicer for Berthe. Even though they had only been apart for a few days, he couldn't wait to see her and invited her to visit the next day. And before he knew it, Berthe was there. He immediately wanted to kiss her, but there was no option to do anything romantic at all. So I gave up on trying to make this a realistic slow burn and just asked her to move in. I was worried that she too would have an affair just because story progression likes to do that, but no, she was faithful. She did have two younger half-sisters back in France, but she barely knew either of them. She also didn't seem to know her mom at all, despite her showing up on the family tree, which I thought was kind of weird. Now that Berthe was in the household, I expanded the basement to add a nectar making room, but I had forgotten that you can only buy the nectar making machines in France. Thankfully, Berthe's uncle Bidybug came in clutch and was able to send them one, which was very, very kind of him. With that done, the couple spent their first day together training. Berthe had the athletic trait and was already pretty far in the skill, so I thought her learning martial arts made a lot of sense. She was a natural, and by the end of her first session had already earned her yellow belt. After that, things got a little steamy, and the two headed upstairs to consummate their new lives together. Afterwards, Berthe went back down to the basement to make her first batch of nectar. The nectar making skill is conceptually really cool, but in reality pretty annoying. You basically just throw 10 random fruits into the machine and hope that your combination will work, and trust me, most of the time, it won't. While she worked on that, I noticed that her lifetime wish was the Tinkerer, but I wanted her to have Bottomless Nectar Cellar instead. That would require her to have a collection of at least 50 bottles of nectar worth at least $10,000, but her first goal would have to be to save up enough reward points to actually switch her lifetime wish. Later that night, I was notified about the first of Adriana's many questionable decisions surrounding her love life.
Adriana. Ugh. Girl, you can do better than that old fart, but okay.
The couple spent the next day working on their skills, with Berthe focused on nectar making and martial arts, and Caspian on cooking. He also spent some time with Valencia, who at this point had lived over a week more than she was supposed to and showed no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for Berthe's mother Claudine, as we were informed that night that she was close to death. I wanted to give her the chance to reconnect with her mother before she died, so the next morning the couple set off for France. But they were too late and Claudine was already dead. Berthe decided to spend the trip getting to know her sisters instead and went to go pay them a visit. Meanwhile, Caspian was back in the Glitch Quest trenches. The person connected to a Chateau de Landgrab quest had died, so it got dropped. And even more annoyingly, the board was now showing adventures he had already completed, making everything even more confusing. Luckily, I was able to use Master Controller to put him back on the quest line. Surely we wouldn't have any more glitches going forward. I checked back in on Berthe and she'd already become friends with her teen sister Camille, which was great, but her youngest sister Marie wasn't interested in meeting up. I hope that they'd be able to talk at some point while she was here, but in the meantime, I just Center to harvest everything in Tuatha's garden. Now that he had the keystone, Caspian went to go explore more of the Chateau de Landgrab, and I don't know if this is a hot take, but I absolutely hate this tomb. Besides a few cool puzzles, it's just a big-ass house full of traps, which gets old very, very quickly. He found the documents he needed after a few hours and completed the quest, but unfortunately for me, he wasn't done with the chateau yet and would need to get another keystone to continue. Caspian's next quest gave him the keystone to investigate the tomb in the nectary that he had found during his last trip. When he arrived, he saw that Berthe's sister Marie was there, so she headed over to talk to her. The sisters bonded for a bit, but Berthe soon became exhausted and had to go to bed. I switched my focus back to Caspian and he began to explore the nectary tomb. And by explore, I once again mean that he put in the keystone he was given and immediately completed the tomb. Unfortunately, besides Tuatha's garden and another tomb we'll get to later, all of the tombs in France are pretty underwhelming. Anyways, even though it was a bit anticlimactic, it still counted as a 6th explored French tomb, completing his lifetime wish requirement. But there was actually more to this tomb, as Caspian found a secret Egyptian room. He would have to go to Egypt to find a ruby that would allow him to continue, but that was perfect since he had spent the least time there and needed to go back soon anyways. Later in the day, Caspian asked Berthe to come with him to the Rose campground where they first fell in love, and once the sun started to set, he proposed. Berthe excitedly said yes, and the couple enjoyed each other's company for the rest of the night. In the morning, Berthe invited her sisters over to join them so they could meet Caspian. I wanted to make sure that Caspian befriended both of them so that he could invite them to the wedding back in Sunset Valley along with his other foreign friends. Berthe's sisters went home once the sun went down, and the couple spent another cozy night together at the campground. The next morning, the couple decided to spar. Oh my god! What? That's crazy. I have no idea how Berthe at level 4 was able to beat Caspian at level 10, but you know what? Good for her. Caspian clearly agreed as he immediately got the want to kiss her and they headed into the tent for a different kind of wrestling match. The couple spent the rest of their trip in the Garden of Tuatha, harvesting, excavating, sparring, and woohooing. And sure, only one of those activities is traditional for engaged couples, but they had fun and that's all that mattered. Once they returned home, Caspian immediately invited all of his friends to visit the next day to attend his wedding. It may seem a little fast for them to get married so soon after getting engaged, but Valencia had been wanting Caspian to get married for so long now, and if she died this close to it happening, I would never forgive myself. Berthe and Valencia spent the day planting new crops in the garden, while Caspian read some recipe books. I also got an update on Adriana. Oh, wait, that's actually so sad. Adriana still's into Darren. Oh. And just a few short hours later, it was their wedding day. All of Caspian's guests arrived, and after greeting them, I scheduled the ceremony for early afternoon at a local beach, but let's pretend it's like at least a few hours away at a nice little resort or something. I gave Caspian a beachy, flowy suit, and Berthe a sleek dress and a fancy updo. Once all of their guests made it to the venue, the ceremony started, and oh my god, having the ocean in the back made everything look so tropical and pretty. Then they exchanged rings and officially became Caspian and Berthe Good. Caspian wanted to go to China for the honeymoon, and Berthe wanted to go to France, but I, as God, got to make the executive decision that they'd be going to Egypt instead. They had a great rest of their wedding day, but on the ride home, they got some very bad news. Oh my god, Tamara Good won't live forever, guys. Guys, shit, I think Tamara's about to die. Damn, that sucks. Caspian and Berthe enjoyed their first woohoo as a married couple, while Valencia took care of the garden until she literally couldn't anymore. Imagine being over 100 years old and just pulling weeds at night. Couldn't be me, but, you know, Valencia's built different. The next morning, I realized that Berthe had enough reward points to switch her lifetime wish, so I officially changed her to striving for a bottomless nectar cellar. Throughout his adventures, Caspian had found a ton of high-value nectar bottles, but I wanted Berthe to achieve her goal without any extra help, so I put all of his bottles back in his inventory for now. I also purchased a few rewards for Caspian, including Jet Setter, which would make travel cheaper, fertility treatment to increase his chance of multiples, and opportunistic to give him better rewards for adventures. Berthe and Valencia tended the garden in the morning, and then the couple worked out together in the afternoon. Caspian ended up maxing the athletic skill, so he was officially as prepared as he could possibly be to fight off any mummies he encountered in Egypt. And speaking of Egypt, the next morning the couple set out for their 8-day honeymoon. Caspian set off to work on the quest from France, while Berthe headed to the market to stock up on pomegranates and buy a camera. Photography is the final skill that came with World Adventures, and even though it's my personal least favorite, I still wanted to explore it a bit. While Berthe took pictures around the market, Caspian ran a few fetch quests until he finally got the Ruby of Saqqara, which would allow him to progress in the Nectar Tomb back in France. With that done, he was finally able to return to the Morcucore quest that he started all the way back as a teen. The first thing he had to do was find the Book of 3 Relics in the Library Under the Sands, which should be called the library in someone's basement because that's what it actually was. Berthe joined him and the couple began to explore the tomb together. Caspian focused on solving puzzles while Berthe took pictures of anything cool and helped out when something required more than one sim. Before long, they reached the final room of the tomb and found the book. Berthe went back to base camp while Caspian delivered the book to Rainia. She then wanted him to find the 3 relics mentioned in the book so that they could hide them and prevent Morcucore from abusing them. The next morning, Berthe went out to explore and stumbled upon a basement in the cemetery full of sarcophagi and rubble, which he started to clear. Caspian continued on with his quest and eventually obtained the first relic mentioned in the book. However, he was soon blocked from progressing any further because he needed to collect Mummotonium and none had spawned in yet. Since he had nothing else to do, he went to help Berthe clear out rubble, but I soon discovered a huge problem. The Axe of Pongu was gone. I assumed I had just accidentally deleted it or something, so I tried to buy another copy from Bitybug, but that didn't work because every time I went into live mode, it would disappear. Caspian needed that axe to explore tombs in Egypt, but I had already saved, so the only thing I could do was cancel their trip and send them home. To make a very long and frustrating story short, when Caspian moved out from the original household, the axe was removed from his inventory and moved into Adriana's family inventory for some reason, which is apparently a decade-old bug that never got fixed. So to fix it, I had Adriana move in with us, grab the axe out of her family inventory, put it on the wall, moved her back to her own household, and then, and only then, Caspian could grab it and put it back in his own inventory. I sent the couple back to Egypt, and thankfully this time, the axe made it there with them. Since the cemetery didn't actually seem to be a real tomb, just a room with rubble in it, I decided to send them to the Pyramid of Burning Sands so Caspian could finally smash the boulder and get revenge on the mummy that defeated him so long ago. He and Berthe made their way through the tomb, and he finally smashed the boulder, opened the chest behind it, and it was just a basic relic. Okay, that was a bit of a letdown, but that's fine. The real reason we were here was to fight the mummy, so they went to the treasure room and no mummy appeared. To say that this trip was going poorly so far would be a massive understatement. Thankfully, Mummotonium had finally spawned in, so he was able to bring some to Rania, who gave him $6,000, so maybe our luck was turning around a bit. Berthe headed back to base camp while Caspian continued to the next stage of the quest, where he had to find and break into the Morkakor HQ, which once again was just in some random guy's basement. Despite being exhausted, Caspian was able to break in and complete his 5th Egyptian tomb. That meant he only had to finish one more tomb while he was here, and he'd be done with his lifetime wish, which was kind of insane. Caspian needed to hack the main computer for the quest, but he was too tired, so he took a quick nap first. Hey, Caspian's behaving inappropriately. I'm literally breaking into your criminal empire. I think you would kick him out regardless if you knew what he was doing. Immediately afterwards, he got the want to have his first child, which I took as a sign that he wanted to go all out on adventuring on this trip and then settle down and take a nice, long break. While he slept, Berthe went to the market to stock up on supplies, upgrade her camera, and buy a cute mummy teddy bear for their first child. When Caspian woke up, he successfully hacked the computer and was sent to the Tomb of the Desert Ocean to find the next relic. Berthe met him there, and they decided to kick off the expedition with a woohoo, since this was supposed to be their honeymoon and all. Then the couple began to explore the tomb, which would end up being my favorite in the entire game. If I had to go to a tomb for my honeymoon, this is the one I'd want to go to. The first section had tons of water and tropical, lush plants around. It was just so pretty. Tomb raiding is probably the farthest thing from a traditional honeymoon activity, but watching them solve puzzles together in such a nice environment did feel kind of romantic, especially since they had to stop every few hours to talk or make out to keep Berthe's social up. After a day or so of exploring, they reached the second section of the tomb, which, while not as pretty as the first, was still fun to explore and had really cool elements like this floor tile artwork. I think overall, the pyramids are the best tombs in the game because not only are they absolutely massive, but each room is still visually striking and distinct. They also have some of the most unique puzzles, and in my opinion do the best job at giving the player the same feeling of discovery that the Sims feel while exploring. They continued into the depths of the tomb, and while the adventure went pretty smoothly, there were a few hiccups. Oh fuck! Uh-oh! Girl, you just almost killed your husband. That's nothing to cheer about. Thankfully, he was fine, and the couple entered the final room of this section, which was first of all beautiful, but more importantly contained the keystone to unlock the heart of the tomb. They were both pretty sleepy, so before going into the final section, they woohooed and slept for a few hours. When they woke up, it didn't take too long to explore the third section, and they soon found the door into the final room. The second Caspian stepped inside, he had officially fulfilled his lifetime wish of becoming a great explorer. After he and Berthe finished looting the tomb, Caspian brought the second relic to Rania, and the couple headed to bed. In the morning, Caspian got to work on the next stage of the quest, which was to make a plate of shawarma to bribe someone into telling him where to find the third and final relic from the book. But the base camp didn't have a stove for some reason, so he couldn't make any there. Since this was for Rania's quest anyways, he just broke into her house to make some, which she didn't seem to like, but hey, it's her fault he was having to do this dumb task in the first place. After submitting the shawarma, Caspian got the location of the third relic as promised, and he also earned enough visa points to reach level 3 in Egypt. Caspian then spent some of his ancient gold coins to unlock the Tears of Horus, which would allow him to see all of the collectibles and dig sites in Egypt. With that, he and Berthe headed to their next tomb, the Great Pyramid. I know I literally just said how much I loved the pyramids, but I hated this first section. While the last one was full of pretty plants and artwork, this one was filled with nothing but rocks and flame traps, which were always really close to each other. Even when I had them inspect the floor first, they'd often accidentally set off a trap, and then in their panic, run into another one, and the only thing I could do was hope they didn't burn to death. But thankfully, after surviving a few too many close calls, they entered the second section, which was a lot better. Not only did it have fewer traps, but it also had much more interesting decorations, as the tomb slowly shifted from being fire-themed to earth-themed. After exploring for a while, the couple ended up in a very ornate golden hallway, leading to what looked like the top of a castle overlooking a strange garden. But most importantly, in the very center, there was a sarcophagus, and upon opening a chest, a mummy came out. Finally, after decades of martial arts training and tomb raiding, Caspian could defeat a mummy and avenge his younger self. Or at least that had been his plan. Attack me. Do not attack Berthe, attack me, please. Fight me. Stop going after my fucking wife. Alright, well, luckily my wife is pretty badass. I think she'll be okay. Yes! Holy shit. Holy shit! Go fucking kiss her. She is so badass. As Caspian made out with his beautiful wife while standing on the ashes of the mummy she just eviscerated, he realized that while he would still really like to win a fight against a mummy at some point, even if he never did, having Berthe by his side to protect him was still more than enough. They continued exploring until they gained access to the garden they saw earlier, and hidden among the foliage was the key to enter the Death Tomb depths, the innermost part of the pyramid. So the couple headed there next, and yeah, let's just say that this floor art didn't really leave the same striking impression that the water tombs did, but A for effort, I guess. And to be fair, the rest of this section was much cooler, with striking black and gold tiles everywhere. After solving just a few more puzzles, Caspian discovered the final room, which contained the last relic and a chance at redemption. Oh my god! Oh my god, Caspian! Caspian, it's your chance. Lock the fuck in. Holy shit. Go in there. Go get attacked. Alright, come on, Caspian. Lock the hell in. Oh god. Caspian, if you still lose, I'm gonna be so mad. Uh-oh. God damn it, Caspian. And of course, once again, Berthe had no issue defeating her mummy. My guess is it's because of her brave trait, though you'd think Caspian with max athletic and martial arts skill would be able to keep up. But regardless, Berthe is a badass. They finished looting and returned the final relic to Rania, officially wrapping up the quest and protecting the town from Morku Corp. Berthe and Caspian spent the rest of their time in Egypt collecting minerals and excavating dig sites, with help from the Tears of Horus and Collection Helper, which I bought Caspian as a present for completing his lifetime wish. And right before they had to head home, Berthe and Caspian returned to base camp and tried for a baby. Now that Caspian had officially become a great explorer, it was time for him to start an entirely new adventure, parenthood. But don't worry, he wasn't completely retired from adventuring, and he still had some stretch goals in mind to try to reach, but for now, he and I both needed a nice long break from traveling. Once they returned home, Caspian sold off a ton of his loot, and Berthe used that money to hire not only a maid, but also a gardener service via a mod. Caspian then took the time to rearrange his relics, with one shelf dedicated to Egypt, one dedicated to China, and two dedicated to relics from all three countries, since unfortunately France doesn't have its own unique relic collection. Caspian had also gathered enough pieces to build his own golden sarcophagus, so he put that on display as well. I checked in on Valencia, and she wanted to learn how to paint, so I bought her an easel and got her started. Next, I switched to Berthe and had her harvest her crops, since the gardeners wouldn't start until the next day. I also spent some lifetime reward points on Super Green Thumb, so any produce she planted would be better quality. I was also notified that Adriana was flirting with several different guys, and since none of them were old-ass Mortimer Goth, I was very happy for her. The next day, while Caspian was in the middle of upgrading the nectar machine to have improved pressing, Berthe realized she was pregnant. Caspian knew instantly and immediately wanted a girl, and while he kept working, Berthe went to tell Valencia the good news. Caspian and Berthe spent the rest of the evening reading pregnancy books together in preparation. The days before the baby came were all pretty chill. Valencia officially surpassed 100 days old and spent her time painting during the day and fishing for deathfish at night. Berthe unfortunately couldn't practice martial arts while pregnant, so she poured herself into making bottle after bottle of nectar, eventually maxing the skill. I also decided to expand the basement and buy her a second nectar making machine to help speed up the process of reaching her lifetime wish. Caspian started to work on the cooking and handiness skill, and to help him out, I bought him the fast learner perk. Adriana had apparently begun dating a man named Quentin, and it seemed to be going pretty good.
Oh, okay, so she and Quentin are getting married. That's so exciting.
What? Oh my god, Adriana! Yeah, my poor girl could not catch a break. And she wasn't the only one. Oh my god! Guys, guess what? You'll never believe the news. Tamara Good's getting pretty old. Huh, you know what else is getting pretty old? Hearing about my already dead mother. Berthe woke up in labor the next morning, so she and Caspian rushed to the hospital, and she soon gave birth to a son. Last generation, all of our kids were named after seas, and this generation, all of our kids are going to have French names. I just finished watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, so I decided that their first son would be named Olivier, and he was born with a light sleeper and athletic traits. And just in case you were wondering, just because Olivier was born first doesn't mean he will be the heir for the next generation. I like to try to alternate genders for my heirs, so I was holding out hope that Olivier would have a twin sister, but surprisingly, even though Caspian has both a family-oriented trait and fertility treatment, they only had one baby. I started to think fertility treatment was cursed in the save, because Valencia also had it, but only ever gave birth to single babies. To up the chances of having multiples next time, I decided to get Berthe the fertility treatment perk as well. Speaking of Berthe, while she was making another batch of nectar, I checked to see how much progress she had made towards her lifetime wish, and she was way closer to completion than I had expected. She only needed to make 8 more bottles and accrue about $3,500 more in value, which wouldn't take long at all. Berthe had also finally made enough varieties of nectar to become a mix master, which gave her the ability to predict the success of a combination fermentation before the nectar was actually made. This was a game changer, as she was now able to make higher quality nectar combinations much more consistently. Caspian had also increased his handiness skill a bit and was able to give her second nectar machine a new upgrade, flavor enhancement. I wasn't sure which upgrade was better for nectar value, so I figured having a machine with each was my best bet. I went to check in on Valencia and saw that she was taking care of Olivier.
I don't think I've ever had a grandparent in my house. Like, not at least for this long. It's kind of cool. I really think Valencia just wanted to spite me. I was like, well, there's no way she's gonna live to see Caspian married. And then I was like, well, there's no way she's gonna live to be a grandmother. Well, fuck me, I guess.
The next day was Caspian's birthday, and I realized that Valencia still being alive was even crazier than I thought.
Like, that is crazy. She's living long enough to have an adult child. I don't think I've ever had that happen. Ever. Ever. And they had kids. She had kids relatively late in life. Like, what the fuck?
Despite the fact that she's a loser, it seems that she's quite literally winning at life. Anyways, for Caspian's birthday, he decided he wanted to make his favorite food, which was apparently tofu dogs, so I sent him to the store to get some supplies. Meanwhile, I bought Berthe the meditative sleep perk so she and Caspian could stay more on the same sleep schedule. Caspian spent the rest of the afternoon upgrading Berthe's nectar machine, and once he was finished, reached level 10 of the handiness skill. Since he was hungry, he decided now would be a good time to throw his backyard barbecue birthday party, aka I just invited Adriana over since none of his other friends were in town. But it's not the size of the party that matters, it's how you use it. Or something like that. Anyways, they all had a good time, and Caspian aged up into an adult, surrounded by his loving family and this one random teenager that was there for some reason. After the celebration, Berthe went to the basement to check on her nectar, and upon putting the bottles into the display case, completed her lifetime wish. Compared to last generation, where Tamara and Valencia barely completed their lifetime wishes before Caspian became a teen, the fact that both of this generation's Sims had finished theirs before their heir was even born yet is insane. This also meant that we could add back in all the nectar that Caspian had found while exploring, giving us a genuinely impressive collection of almost 100 bottles of nectar valued at over $23,000, which would only continue to grow. I then brought Caspian into Cas for his makeover, and while his clothes didn't change too drastically, I decided to give him some grays in his hair and a more mature beard. Now that Berthe and Caspian had both completed their lifetime wishes, the next major goal was to have an heiress. However, since Berthe was only a few days away from becoming an adult, getting pregnant now would mess with her aging, so I decided to wait until after her birthday. In the meantime, Caspian continued to build his domestic skills, Berthe continued to make nectar, Adriana continued to have the world's most confusing love life, and Valencia continued to live despite it all. Finally, the day of both Olivier and Berthe's birthday arrived, and after they aged up, Berthe and Caspian immediately tried for a baby. Then I took them both into Cas for a makeover. Olivier's favorite color was hot pink, so I tried to incorporate that into his outfits wherever I could. As for Berthe, I decided to cut her hair short, more like her default appearance, and gave her some comfortable but still cute clothes. I also gave her this mummy t-shirt for her sleepwear, which I'm gonna say is a gift from Caspian after her success killing them in Egypt. Now that we had a toddler, I added in some more toys and a toddler potty. Having Valencia around to help teach him toddler skills was super useful. She potty trained him, and after that, Caspian taught him how to walk. Then, just a day or so later, Berthe found out she was pregnant again. She went home to tell Caspian the good news, and obviously he was thrilled. Berthe taught Olivier how to talk so he would be done learning all of his skills before the baby, or hopefully babies, arrived. The rest of her pregnancy passed pretty uneventfully, aside from Caspian maxing the cooking skill and Adriana aging up into an adult. I usually don't give people outside the household makeovers after they age up, but since we're literally just keeping up with Adriana, I figured she deserved one. I haven't mentioned it until now, but throughout all of the ups and downs of her love life, she's been steadily rising through the ranks of the business career, so I gave her a more professional vice president of a company look. The makeover seemed to work well for Adriana, as almost immediately she started dating a man named Gerald. But maybe it worked a little too well, because just a day later, she and Gerald were shopping for baby supplies. The next morning, Berthe went into labor, and once again, she and Caspian rushed to the hospital. This time, she gave birth to a little girl, who they named Rose, after the name of their favorite campground in France. Her traits were friendly and grumpy, which I thought was a pretty fun combination. And finally, after 2 entire generations, fertility treatment worked, and Berthe had another girl. To keep the flower theme going, they named her Marguerite, which is the type of daisy, and she got the brave and light sleeper traits. But then, oh my god, we got triplets. Oh no! No! Fertility treatment worked too well. It came with a vengeance. Fuck. I know I've complained over the course of 2 generations about fertility treatment not working, but actually having to deal with triplets while already having a toddler was a possibility I hadn't quite thought through. But it was too late for that. Florian was here, and he was a friendly slob. Berthe and Caspian loaded their new kids up and headed home while I went shopping for 3 new cribs. Thankfully, I have a CC one that's 1 tile, or I genuinely don't know how I would have fit them all in the house without kicking Valencia out of her room. And speaking of Valencia, oh my god, I don't know how I would have survived without her. Having an extra pair of hands was a game changer, and genuinely made having 3 babies and a toddler somewhat manageable versus the pure hell it would have been with just 2 Sims. But after a few days of taking care of them, she may have started to resent her long life a bit. Queen, I know you're 109 days old, but you're not dead yet. Lock in. And she wasn't the only one with a complicated relationship with death. Why do I have a feeling Tamara Good's about to die? What is it, Caspian? Tell me. Oh my god, Tamara Good will live forever!
so funny. I called it. I could feel it in my bones that she was getting pretty old and wouldn't live forever. Damn, such a shame. It's kind of funny to think about the fact that Tamara keeps dying over and over again, while Valencia is apparently living forever. They're strangely doomed Yuri-core now, despite the fact that they were happily married for many, many years before this. Olivier aged up into a child the next day, and he got the angler trait, so clearly Valencia had rubbed off on him a bit. I gave him a quick makeover in Cass and tried to give him something to reflect his outdoorsy traits while still incorporating a lot of pink. I expanded the basement a bit and built Olivier a room down there, and since he wouldn't have windows or anything, I decided it was only fair to give him his own computer to even things out. To celebrate, Valencia took him out to the park and taught him how to fish, which was so stupid cute. Meanwhile, now that most of our crops had died out, I decided to rearrange the garden. But I went a little insane and decided to organize everything in rainbow order by plant type. I spent way too much time on this, but I'm happy with how it turned out. Berthe spent the rest of the day planting everything and ended up maxing the gardening skill. She was still out there hours later when we got the notification that Adriana had given birth to a baby boy named Marcus. And it was a big day for our household too, because the triplets aged up into toddlers. I brought them into Cass and decided to color code them by their cribs, which actually line up with their favorite colors almost perfectly. The adults got to work teaching them their skills, and to keep things simple, I had them teach the triplets what they taught Olivier. So Valencia would potty train them, Caspian would teach them how to walk, and Berthe would teach them how to talk. The next day we got the tragic news that Tamara Good wouldn't be around much longer, which is, just really, really sad and unexpected. Anyway, since they had more money than they knew what to do with, I bought the kids a super nice playground, which Olivier absolutely loved. Over the next few days, the adults basically spent all of their time teaching the toddlers their skills. But one night, Berthe was feeling a bit stir-crazy, so she and Caspian went on an impromptu date night for fast food with a side of public woohoo. And the next day, everyone's hard work paid off as all three triplets were able to learn all three skills with several days to spare. And then, as if she had finally given everything she could to her family.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I didn't think it'd ever happen! Holy shit, it was like, what, 113 days? Holy shit! Rest in peace, my queen. What are you wearing? Grim. Okay, what the fuck? What the hell is going on? Oh my god.
Valencia passed away at the ripe old age of 113 days, which I genuinely think is the longest I've ever had a human sim live. To put things into perspective, an average sim like Valencia, with no special traits, skills, or perks to increase her lifespan, will die at any time after 85 days. Valencia lived for 28 days longer than that, which is ridiculous. If y'all have any idea why that is, please let me know, but regardless, she was finally free to rest with Tamara, and her presence would be sorely missed. I gave her Deathfish Wilbur to Olivier and set up a small memorial for her and Tamara. The household was inconsolable, and they all turned to each other for comfort. Caspian had always used martial arts as a coping mechanism, and now was no exception, so he and Berthe sparred multiple times that night, but it wasn't enough. And to make things worse, their emotional moment was interrupted by the double whammy of Tamara's ghost coming to haunt the household, and Adriana getting pregnant by another one of her many, many lovers. There was just a little too much chaos going on for Caspian to properly grieve his mom here, so with Berthe's encouragement, he decided to travel to China. Not only did he want to get away for a while and process his emotions, but he also wanted to fulfill his stretch goals. And yes, that's right, I said goals, because he has 3 loose ends to tie up. Number 1, I wanted him to become a grandmaster in the martial arts tournament. Number 2, I wanted him to win a fight against a mummy. And number 3, I wanted him to reach the highest visa in every country. I was hopeful that all of those things could be accomplished in just one 6-day trip to China. It was a nice full circle moment as he returned to the place he had his first solo trip for his final one, now a completely different person, but also still himself. Anyways, pretentious bullshit aside, right when he landed, I noticed a nearby orchard for the first time, which had plants I hadn't seen before, like plums and pomelos. Caspian headed over to harvest everything and called his first tournament opponent to meet him there, but they never showed up. I had almost forgotten just how glitched and annoying the tournament system was. It took almost an entire day for him to successfully have his first match, but thankfully it was already enough to promote him to tournament rank 3. He won another match before bed, and then the next day won 3 more. However, things took a bit of a turn because after that, he lost his first ever ranked sparring match. Thankfully, he didn't go down in rank or anything, and upon requesting a rematch, he won and reached level 4. The exact same thing happened with his next competitor, but those seemed to just be flukes as he easily won his other 2 matches that day. Later that night, Caspian completed a quick quest and got enough visa points to reach level 3 in China, so he officially had the highest visa level in every location. When he woke up the next morning, he headed to the special merchant and spent a bunch of gold coins on the Sultan's Tabernacle, the fanciest tent ever basically, and yeah, it better be considering it sells for $50,000. Caspian called over his first sparring opponent
opponent of the day, and upon winning the round, he was promoted to level 5 and had become the Grand Master of the entire tournament. All of that had taken about 4 days, so we only had 2 left to try to explore a tomb and hopefully fight a mummy. Like in France, my opportunities here were glitched, so I used Enros to give him one that he hadn't done yet. He had to explore the tomb of the first emperor to find and return a man's family spear, which sounded great to both me and Caspian. He headed to the tomb, which was located under the Terracotta Army, and began to explore. The tomb was pretty standard until he came across a room completely full of sarcophagi. He started to loot them, and there ended up not just being 1 mummy, but 2. If there was ever a chance to redeem his past failures, it was now.
Hey guys, anyone of y'all want to attack me? I would love to be attacked by a mummy so I can fight one, please. Oh, yes, yes. Come on, Caspian, lock the fuck in. Come on, Caspian. Oh god, I don't think he's gonna win. Oh, maybe? Maybe? Yes! Oh my god, good job, Caspian. I'm so proud of you. Let's go.
It may have taken him 2 entire life stages, but he was finally able to defeat a mummy. And sure, he immediately got his ass kicked by the other mummy like 30 seconds later, but who cares? He defeated a mummy and thus had officially completed all of his stretch goals. The rest of the tomb was a breeze, so he returned the spear to its proper owner, and then used his remaining hours in China to collect all of the loot that had respawned in Dong Quo's treasure trove. When he returned home, Caspian found that he was feeling much better than before he left. And even though he still missed Valencia a lot, and probably always would, he was finally able to accept her passing and continue moving forward without her. Since Caspian picked up a few more cool relics in China, I did one final rearrangement of his displays, and I'm really happy with how his final collection turned out. But then both Caspian and I had to return to the torment of taking care of 3 toddlers at once, and this time we were down a sim. They were a bit more self-sufficient now that they had learned all their skills, so Berthe and Caspian still had time to spar and woohoo here and there, but it was still a lot of work to keep everyone happy. But thankfully, just a few days later, it was the triplets' birthday. I had been going back and forth between choosing Rose or Marguerite to be the next heir, but because Rose aged up with the party animal trait, I officially chose her. Both of the previous heirs were pretty antisocial, so the idea of playing a friendly party animal with a bit of a moody side seemed like a good change of pace. Marguerite aged up and got the loves the outdoors trait, making her a good mix of her parents, while Florian was the exact opposite as he got no sense of humor. Now that the triplets were children, I had a better idea of their vibes and personalities, so their outfits became a bit more individualized. Rose was girly and stylish and would probably be pretty popular, Marguerite was a quieter, outdoorsy tomboy, and Florian was Florian. Yeah, I still hadn't quite figured out his deal yet, but he's cool too. Now that they were children, I swapped out their toddler furniture for proper kids' rooms. The girls had to share, but they got the biggest room with the most windows, so it felt like a fair trade. And I know I usually randomize my heirs' lifetime wishes, but I already kind of see Rose as a stylist. The World Adventure lifetime wishes were similar enough that they all could have worked for Caspian, but the ambitions ones are way more varied, so it's less likely I'd roll something that actually fits her. But it's not set in stone, so let me know if you think I should still randomize it. Once the rooms were finished, I had Rose start learning the painting skill. Regardless of what she ends up doing in life, I definitely see her being artistic and would love to have her learn sculpting when we had ambitions. Later that night, Adriana gave birth to a baby girl named Star, which was super exciting, and the celebrations for the family continued as the next day it was Olivier's birthday. After his last day of elementary school, the whole family went out to a nice dinner at the bistro and then saw a movie. Olivier aged up outside the theater while his family and a small group of townies celebrated. He got the green thumb trait, and between that and Angler, it was clear he really took after Valencia. I gave him a makeover to reflect that, trying to balance his interest in science and nature with his love of bright colors. Later that night, we got another "someone doesn't have long left to live" call, but for once it wasn't for Tamara, it was for Hui Young, Caspian's old friend from China, so he called her to say his goodbyes. The next day after school, Olivier decided he wanted to learn martial arts, so he asked Caspian to train him, and when his father had to stop to cook dinner, Olivier went upstairs and joined Berthe for a workout instead. When the triplets got home, Rose worked on her painting, while Marguerite and Florian played with toys around the house. The next several days went by pretty much exactly the same until Sunday. Rose had an opportunity to attend a free game at the stadium, and I decided to have the entire family join her. Somehow Rose finished watching the game before everyone else did, so she went home and finished her current painting, reaching level 4 in the process. When the rest of the family got back, they all went outside and played in the sprinklers together. After the kids went to bed, Caspian and Berthe headed out to spar, and Berthe reached both level 10 martial arts and level 10 athletics, which he'd been working toward for years at this point. Caspian was rapidly approaching his elder years, but he realized that there was still one last loose end to tie up. He needed to go back to France to finish the Egyptian tomb he found in the Nectary. Berthe had been wanting to go back to France ever since they got married, and now they could share the experience with their kids. So the next day, the family packed their bags and headed off for one final trip, a 6-day adventure in France. But unfortunately, World Adventures had one last game-breaking bug up its sleeve. When Caspian arrived in France, the person who had originally given him the adventure had died, which immediately canceled out the quest. Normally, that wouldn't be a huge issue. I could just use Master Controller to restore it, but the game had also removed the Ruby of Saqqara from his inventory, and I couldn't assign him the next stage of the quest without it. That meant I would have had to go all the way back to Egypt and redo the entire quest chain to find it again, which, yeah, that was absolutely not happening. Much like with the axe debacle, I tried several different things to fix it, and eventually I was able to use Enros Debugger Heir to set him to the stage of the quest after the ruby is used and was good to go from there. While this glitch was definitely much more story progression's fault than the pack itself, the fact that you can't easily buy any of these quest items in Buy-to-Bug is a huge oversight to me, especially with how glitchy the travel opportunities are. Anyways, after all of that, Caspian and Berthe headed down to the depths of the Nectary to explore what would be their final tomb. As you may have guessed, this tomb had a lot of Egyptian theming, and it also had these cool sections where the floor was missing, revealing the area underneath it. Surprisingly, after just a few hours of exploring, they reached the technical end of the tomb, but I could tell there was still way more down there to explore. Caspian found the sapphire of the crescent moon and was supposed to report back before continuing, but both he and Berthe were exhausted, so they went to sleep. But they weren't alone. Oh my god, I didn't even see that. Hi guys! What the fuck? When did you get here? Alright, fuck him up, Caspian. Come on. Oh god. Oh god. Caspian. Caspian. Alright, Berthe, show him how he's done. You gonna go cheer on? He's like, yeah, my wife's so cool. Goodbye. But Caspian is at least very well aware that his wife is way cooler than he is. Like, holy shit. After all that excitement and a quick woohoo for good measure, Caspian decided to go ahead and report back so they could immediately go back to exploring once they woke up. But my plan was foiled when after he inserted the sapphire, he realized he also needed an emerald. He had to ask around town for information, and coincidentally, it ended up being Berthe's sister Camille who pointed him in the right direction. He traded a bottle of nectar with a woman to get a necklace containing the emerald, and once he did, he was finally free to explore the rest of the tomb. This tomb is both visually and mechanically really cool. It constantly fluctuates between French and Egyptian theming, and both are done really well. It also has some cool puzzles like this one where you have to step only where the light is blue or you'll set off traps. It ended up being the perfect final tomb because there were lots of fun rooms to explore, and while some of the puzzles were a bit tricky, none of them made me want to tear my hair out. And this was the tomb of a pair of lovers, so it felt very fitting for our husband and wife exploration duo to tackle it together. They eventually reached the final room, where Caspian had one last chance to face a mummy, this time with Berthe watching. Alright, locked in. Get locked in, please, King. Yes, Caspian, thank you. Yay! Let's go. Look, she's so proud of him. That's so cute. And when a second mummy showed up, Berthe got a great picture of it before Caspian beat that one up too. It was, pun intended, the picture-perfect ending for their adventuring careers. Afterwards, they went back to base camp for some family time, but the kids were way ahead of them and had all become best friends with each other already. Caspian was distant with Olivier, Rose, and Florian, and to prevent any of his other relationships from decreasing, I bought him and Berthe the long-distance friend reward. Caspian spent the evening hanging out with Olivier, and the next day when the family went to the museum, he played in the yard with Rose and Florian. By the end of the day, every member of the family was best friends with each other. Caspian bumped into the specialty merchant and decided to buy another Sultan's Tabernacle, this time to sell, as well as a certificate of partnership with France. That would let him stay there even longer, which was useless since I don't plan on traveling again, but for the lore, let's just pretend it's its French dual citizenship. The family spent the rest of the trip relaxing in the town square, though Caspian and Berthe did sneak off to the Rose Camp Garden for one last rendezvous. They came back pretty quickly though, and bought everyone a piece of pie to enjoy. Later that night, they headed back to base camp, and I found Rose doing something interesting. Play with mirror. I've never seen this interaction. Stop, she's so cute! I'm super excited to play with Rose for ambitions. I can just tell she's going to be wildly different and much more outgoing than any sim we've played with thus far. The family returned home the next day, and shortly afterwards, Rose finished a super fun and vibrant city painting. And we got the first positive Adriana love life update in a while, which is that she got back together with Marcus's father Gerald, and I hope it works out for them this time. The next morning, it was the triplets' birthday, but Olivier was the first one awake. While working out, he decided that his lifetime wish would be physical perfection, with the goal of maxing both the athletic and martial arts skills. Since both of his parents did that, it makes perfect sense to me that he would want to do the same. When the triplets returned home from school, they had a small family party, and even Marcus was there to celebrate. Rose aged up first, and now that she was officially our heir, randomizing her trait was a lot scarier. Vegetarian. Okay, that's kind of a fun one. It kind of goes with like the eco-living stuff with ambition, so I like that. Alright, vegetarian queen. Marguerite aged up with a schmoozer trait, and Florian got the vehicle enthusiast trait. For these makeovers, I gave Rose a very feminine, girly girl look, and I see her trying to balance style with sustainability. Marguerite has a bit more of an edgy but practical style, and I definitely see her being a bit of an underrated heartbreaker. And Florian, despite having no sense of humor, doesn't seem to take things too seriously, except for cars. Honestly, I think it'd be fun to play with all three of them for a bit as young adults to explore a few different ambitions careers before fully focusing on Rose, but let me know what you think. Technically, with that, the World Adventures generation is over, but I decided to play one more day so we could celebrate Caspian's birthday and the end of this era of the lepacy as a whole. The good family would be leaving Sunset Valley, so Caspian invited all of his friends from around the world, as well as Adriana and her family, for one last party together. Caspian aged up into an elder, surrounded by his closest friends, tight-knit family, and a few strangers for good measure, and with one last woohoo with Berthe, this generation officially came to a close. Next time, we will obviously be adding ambitions and moving to Twinbrook. Rose will definitely pick up some of the new skills and activities like sculpting, sketching on the draft board, and practicing eco-friendly behavior, and I'm super excited to follow her journey. Thank you so much for watching to the very end of this long video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, then I once again ask that you please consider subscribing. Not only would it absolutely make my day, but you'll also be able to keep up with all of my future content, including Rose's video. With that, thank you again for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Please take care of yourself, drink some water, and just so you know, Tamara Good's getting pretty old and won't live forever. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.